It was 2005 when British TV presenter Noel Edmonds became synonymous with the concept of cosmic ordering.
Cosmic ordering basically is about how we create our own reality for ourselves. It's not coincidence what happens to us in our daily life. It's a result of our thoughts, feelings and expectations from yesterday.
Noel claimed that he had asked the cosmos for
an innovative challenge. I didn't know what it was.
Shortly after Noel had put in his order, he landed a new job hosting the hit game show Deal or No Deal.
£250,000. 22 identical sealed boxes. And no questions. Except one.
At the time, he hadn't presented television in almost half a decade. And here he was, the face of a show that would become somewhat of a phenomenon. His newly revived career appeared to be a success story for this new manifestation technique. Suddenly, people were captivated by the idea of being able to place an order for their heart's desires with the universe itself. And the originator of the concept, Bärbel Mohr, saw her book, The Cosmic Ordering Service, catapult to the top of the bestsellers list.
You are allowed, whatever your faith, you are allowed to say to the cosmos, the bigger being, whatever it is, you're allowed to say, this is what I'd like, and you place an order.
I'll be honest, I've always been somewhat fascinated with Noel Edmonds and some of his more out there beliefs.
The biggest problem we have is not Ebola, it's not AIDS, it's actually electrosmog, the Wi-Fi, and all of the systems that we are introducing into our lives are destroying our own natural electromagnetic fields.
So I thought it was time to dive into this bizarre rabbit hole of magical thinking. One filled to the brim with the pursuit of perfection.
I'm rocking.
An embrace of big wellness.
This is water in its purest form.
The idea that negativity can affect cancer outcomes.
You said,
yes.
Is it possible your ill health is caused by your negative attitude?
And a strange pattern of conflict with local council officials.
Because I want to fight people like you and your council, because I think you're at the heart of what is wrong with this country.
From House Party to Noel's HQ and now New Zealand, we'll discover how Noel's beliefs, once considered a bit weird, are now more widely accepted than ever before. So join me as we investigate Noel Edmonds and the fantasy world of cosmic ordering. This video is brought to you by viewer support on Patreon. You can join for £3 a month, which will give you early access to videos and access to our Discord server. On other tiers, you get access to Patreon-only podcasts and videos. So what are you waiting for? Find the link in the description and sign up today.
Morning. My name's Noel Edmonds. My day starts generally at about 5:30, according to whether or not I'm going to wash my hair.
If you're anything like me, a child that grew up in the UK in the 90s, when you think of Noel Edmonds, you may have vivid, almost warlike flashbacks to his staple TV show, Noel's House Party. After all, it was once described as the most important show on the BBC. Set in the fictional village of Crinkly Bottom, yes, that is really what it was called. This Saturday night variety show saw Noel open the doors of his fantasy mansion to all manner of light-hearted hijinks. There were pranks on celebrities, which he called gotchas.
This is called a gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Chances for the audience to win money, tanks filled with gunge, and a bizarre and invasive segment in which a hidden camera would be placed in a viewer's home without their knowledge.
And we're going to go whooshing and wishing and washing all the way to Harlow in Essex. Go. Hello, go on.
But arguably, the worst part of Noel's House Party, aside from a series of failed theme parks, which could be a video all of its own, was Mr. fucking Blobby.
Gone out. What are you packing for?
Blobby, blobby, blobby!
It's hard to explain the cultural impact of Mr. Blobby to someone that didn't experience it firsthand. One of my saddest childhood memories was going to a car boot sale and buying what I thought was a Mr. Blobby VHS, only to get it home and find out that somebody had taped over Mr. Blobby with an episode of the hospital drama Casualty. It must have traumatised me somehow because I can still remember it to this day. This is the world I grew up in. When I was 4 years old, his song was the Christmas #1 in the UK. Honestly, what is wrong with this country? House Party was the successor to Noel Edmonds' Saturday Roadshow.
Tonight from the City of London, where competition is the name of the game. Yes, we're live from the back of England for the Noel Edmonds Saturday Roadshow.
Much like House Party, it was another light entertainment show that was filled with segments that felt straight out of a desperate Alan Partridge pitch to the BBC.
Arm wrestling with Chaz and Dave. Youth hosteling with Chris Eubank.
Before that, Noel had presented The Late Late Breakfast Show, which featured an infamous segment called Give It a Whirl. Audience members would volunteer their names for the whirly wheel, which Noel would spin to select one of them to participate in some pretty dangerous stunts.
Mark, do answer the phone quickly, please. We are running out of... Hello?
9237.
Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Hello. You've been selected on the whirly wheel.
That's right.
Yeah.
On the 13th of November 1986, 24-year-old Michael Lush fell 120 feet to his death while volunteering for that week's stunt, one that the show had called Hang 'em High. Noel's Late Late Breakfast Show was immediately cancelled, and he disappeared out of the public eye for about 3 weeks. By mid-December, he was back, and he had this to say to the press. With respect to Michael Lush's family, my life has to go on. I've got to start to look forward to my career next year. I hope 1987 will be happier for me and my family than 1986 was. He also made an appearance on the Terry Wogan show that same month.
It was a very strange feeling to suddenly go through the diary and literally snowpake everything out and just realise that, I suppose it was a feeling very similar to maybe how the captain of a ship feels when he's lost the vessel. And to suddenly, bang, it's gone. Obviously it was a tremendous shock, and the reaction of people has helped enormously. I mean, I've always felt I've been very lucky. We enjoy a very special relationship with the public, and I was terrified that that relationship would end. So when I talked about quitting completely and getting out of public life, it was because I wasn't sure whether that very special relationship had been completely ruined.
Noel had been a fixture in British broadcasting since his career had begun in the late 1960s. He appeared on shows like Top of the Pops. In the 1970s, he hosted the kids show Multicoloured Swap Shop.
Hello, yes indeed, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the Swap Shop.
Which was also responsible for another musical monstrosity. It's probably safe to say that Noel himself wanted to be a winner in the world of entertainment. And for all intents and purposes, he was. He was good at his job. He was a skilled presenter, and people liked him. Even after the tragic death of Michael Lush and his response to it, which some accused of being self-centered, people still tuned in to watch his Saturday Roadshow and eventually Noel's House Party. His contract with the BBC made him the highest paid presenter on television, and the ratings were through the roof. Noel's House Party existed in a time where viewers had few options of what to watch on a Saturday evening, and Noel took the job seriously. In his later book, he spoke about his routine when he presented the show. According to him, he was in bed by 9 p.m. each evening and asleep after one episode of Cheers.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Noel himself existed in a world where everybody knew his name.
And I dream about a man like you.
Really?
But all good parties must sadly come to an end, and the lights came on for Noel on the 20th of March 1999.
It's an overworked expression when people say it's the end of an era, but for BBC Television, for the entertainment department, for me, and possibly you, it really is the end of an era. I hope your memory will be very kind to us. After 169, bye.
It was the start of the third millennium, and Noel was trying his hand at new ventures. Back in 1985, he had formed the Unique Group, and by the year 2000, it consisted of 13 businesses, from talent management to video conferencing. But Noel couldn't stay out of the spotlight for long, and although the presenting well appeared to be dry, in 2003 he found himself back on the airwaves, presenting a show on Radio 2's drive time slot. 2 years later, Noel's 17-year marriage with Helen Sobey came to an end, and there were a series of bizarre rumours that went around the tabloid press about the reasons why. Of course, many of them appeared to be baseless, and the British press are known for running wild and loose with the truth. But perhaps the rumours started due to what one journalist, Elizabeth Grice, called his insufferably macho or unwisely tongue-in-cheek comments about his wife Helen. "I'm very possessive. Helen is mine. I've got a piece of paper to say I bought her."
I got a Helen because you seem to be getting on
Yes,
all right with a Helen, so I thought, well, I'll go for the Helen.
Good.
A well-tried,
Safe bet. Good man.
road-tested model, so I thought I'll get one of those.
I have a very attractive wife and I want to be able to enjoy all aspects of her. I don't play much sport, but I make love for Britain. It's hard to tell when Noel Edmonds is being serious. It's also hard to pinpoint exactly when his interest in the metaphysical began. It could have been through rubbing shoulders with celebrities like Uri Geller, or perhaps Noel was predestined to dive headfirst down the rabbit hole. Whatever it was, he seemed to already be wading knee-deep in the woo when he made an appointment with a reflexologist.
Reflexology is a science that deals with the principle that there are reflexes in the feet that connect to each and every organ, gland, function and part of the human body.
An appointment where he claims he was handed a copy of Bärbel Mohr's The Cosmic Ordering Service.
Hello, my name is Bärbel Mohr. I'm the originator of cosmic ordering. It's not coincidence what happens to us in our daily life. It's a result of our thoughts, feelings and expectations from yesterday.
Bärbel Mohr was born in Bonn, Germany, and before turning her attention to the wish-granting properties of the universe, she worked as a photographer, editor and magazine designer. Her adventures in manifestation began with her search for a romantic partner. When the traditional dating scene had failed to muster up a mate,
"We can't promise you that you'll meet someone and get married next Tuesday."
a friend suggested that she place an order for her ideal man with the universe. At first, Bärbel was skeptical. I mean, of course, wouldn't we all be? If finding the right partner was as simple as just asking the universe, then surely everyone would have the right partner. But Bärbel soon reeled off a list of 9 traits that she wanted in her prospective love interest. Then she set a delivery date for him, and just like that, he arrived. And thus, the Cosmic Ordering Service was born.
Thought I told you never to call me here.
Bärbel's ideas were certainly not new. It was a rehashing of classic New Thought beliefs that had been popularised by people like Napoleon Hill, Neville Goddard, and many, many more.
Take charge of your thoughts. You can do what you will with them.
The power's always with you. It's always flowing to and through. It's just a matter of learning how to direct it. And in learning how to direct it, happiness, health, and prosperity will manifest in your life, and they should, because that's your birthright.
A person with a positive mental attitude attracts opportunity, favorable opportunities, just like a magnet attracts steel filings. And is definitely in reverse, a negative mental attitude repels opportunities.
The world of positive thinking can be lucrative, especially if you decide to enter the already saturated market with a book. And Bärbel seemed to have an approach tailored for the burgeoning Amazon Prime age. According to her, the UPS, what she called the Universal Parcel Service, delivers cosmic orders via gut feelings and vibes. So if you were expecting the universe to deliver your dream bloke in a gift wrap box and a little note attached that reads, "He's all yours, XOXO the universe," I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but it doesn't quite work like that. As with so many of these belief systems, you have to turn inwards and rely on your inner feelings to know whether or not the order has been fulfilled. If it wasn't fulfilled, well, you probably weren't tuned to the right vibration and you probably weren't positive enough, you miserable bastard. That is right. In this belief system, if things don't work, it's all your fault. Bärbel decided to write a handbook for those that wanted to put in their own cosmic orders. She distributed photocopies amongst her friends and it blew up. Because of course it did. Here was a guide to getting everything that you ever wanted. Financial success, a good career, a handsome husband. It could all be yours with a simple wish. Soon, Bärbel was contacted by the publisher Hampton Roads and they began to distribute her book. Now, as for the contents, it's a smorgasbord of New Age and alternative beliefs, from using Uri Geller as proof that the cosmos is malleable. In short, if one can twist super strong stainless steel spoons into spirals just like that, then one should also be able to simply order the right apartment, the right partner, the ideal job, etc. from the universe. To advocating her own method of healing for all manner of diseases. Once you understand the cause of your disease and remember what you really want in life, and you start taking care of your inner self, by creating a life that allows you to express yourself to the fullest degree, then your body won't have to continually remind you of the fact that you are neglecting yourself, and the disease will disappear. As a side note, the Uri Geller mention is quite funny considering Uri's own appearance on Noel's house party, where some allege, some being me, that you can see his spoon-bending trickery in all of its glory.
Is it hot? No, it's totally cold.
Yes, of course.
Look, it's still very
There's also an extremely telling section in Bärbel Mohr's book titled Peace Be With You, where she literally has to teach herself to have empathy for homeless people. Scavenger, bum, loser, derelict, pessimist. No wonder society is falling apart and going to ruin. Okay, that's enough. I've calmed down again and think peace be with you, brother. And I can really feel how peace settles back into my soul. Like, I'm sorry, but if you look at a homeless person and you think scavenger, derelict, bum, you're the reason that society's falling apart, I don't think that you should be writing a fucking self-help book. In the book, Bärbel puts forward many examples of where people piss her off or don't cater to her every whim. But of course, she responds to all of this in a really positive way because she's such a positive person. So she just keeps saying like, peace be with you in her head to drown out all of the negativity. I cannot overstate just how self-obsessed this whole thing is, because the goal doesn't seem to be creating community or cohesion with the people around her, or working to uplift other people by adopting a generally cheerful demeanour. In the world of cosmic ordering, being cheerful and happy has a supposed material benefit. According to Bärbel, inner peace is the 1 in a million super multiplier for enhancing the effectiveness of the ordering service. In other words, be nice to people because then the universe will give you more stuff. 2006 was a stellar year for the law of attraction. In March that year, Rhonda Byrne's pseudo-documentary The Secret was released.
You know, this secret gives you everything you want. Happiness, health, and wealth.
That's a clip from the DVD The Secret, the latest success story in the world of self-help.
The message of The Secret is the message that I've been trying to share with the world on my show for the past 21 years.
But not everyone is sold on The Secret. Some are calling it old-fashioned snake oil in a new package.
The message is that you're really responsible for your life.
One of the women in the film cures herself of cancer by visualizing herself healthy.
During the day, all day long, I would just say, thank you for my healing. On and on and on I went. Thank you for my healing.
You are responsible for your life.
If you have a disease and you're focusing on it and you're talking to people about it, you're going to create more diseased cells.
I don't think that's good medical advice, and I don't think it's good psychological advice for all the people who don't get cured of cancer.
People then begin to blame themselves and become demoralized. So when your cancer doesn't remit, schizophrenia doesn't disappear, and you continue to be blind, you say, well, it must be something in me.
According to Byrne's business partner, they made wealth health enhancement a major element of the project, and Bob was quoted as saying, "We desired to hit the masses, and money is the #1 thing on the masses' minds."
Well, I can just imagine what a lot of people that are watching this are thinking, and that is, how can I attract more money into my life?
Manifestation and essentially promising wish fulfillment to people is an incredibly lucrative market.
I think I was reading it sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million copies.
But you can't seem to use Bärbel Mohr's cosmic ordering system or Rhonda Byrne's The Secret to benefit humanity as a whole. You can't seem to manifest an end to war and genocide. You can, however, seemingly use it to manifest vast riches and uphold the status quo. Because remember, this is the ancient wisdom that a secret club of billionaires are trying to keep from you.
Why do you think that 1% of the population earns around 96% of all the money that's being earned?
They're not rich because they're hoarding all of the wealth created by workers.
Do you think that's an accident? It's no accident. It's designed that way. They understand something. They understand the secret.
Which, according to both Bärbel Mohr and Rhonda Byrne, is that your thoughts become matter. The theory is that your thoughts, both positive and negative, have real-world consequences.
The message kept coming up about really changing the way you think and react to the life situations.
Your thoughts and your feelings create your reality.
To succeed in cosmic ordering and manifestation, you have to keep a close eye on your pesky inner monologue.
So how do you make it happen? You have to believe it.
Negative thoughts are low vibrational. They take you out of alignment with the universe that so desperately wants to grant you material abundance. If only you'd just change the damn dial and get on the right frequency. Now, obviously, this is magical thinking at its most extreme, and it's not surprising that this belief system opens the doors to victim blaming.
The secret promise is that if you think it, believe it, it will occur. And that's where it crosses the threshold.
All of the trauma or negative events of your life came into being because you weren't positive enough. And for some people, the idea that their thoughts will literally become reality can be extremely harmful and terrifying.
This is an example of magical or superstitious thinking, and it causes suffering to people with anxiety and OCD that experience unwanted intrusive thoughts. When a person with OCD believes in manifesting and the power of attraction, they get stuck in compulsions and rituals trying to replace and cancel out unwanted thoughts with positive ones. While we have the ability to think a thought, we do not have the ability to not think a thought.
Cosmic ordering encourages a disconnect with the material world. You don't need a social safety net if you've got a direct line to the universe and the purported ability to magic wealth, health, and happiness simply by wishing it so.
Because with Magic Jesus, you don't need labor unions. With Magic Jesus, you don't need health care. Because Magic Jesus is going to give you a Cadillac and make all your dreams come true. And that is that shift from a reality-based world into the world of magical thinking. And once people shift into that world of magical thinking, you can't reach them through rational argument.
In that clip, Chris Hedges was talking about megachurches and the prosperity gospel, but he could have been talking about cosmic ordering. While magical thinking has been around forever, it seems to have grown in popularity in our current neoliberal society, which Ruth Kane defined as the enervating whirl of relentless privatization, spiraling inequality, withdrawal of basic state support and benefits, ever-increasing and pointless work demands, fake news, unemployment, and precarious work. Of course, a system like this would prefer people to look inward. In fact, a lot of the time it's encouraged. If you're focused on the self, you don't have much time to focus on the material, structural causes for why everything feels a bit shit. In his 2019 book, Mindfulness, Ron Purser provided a sometimes scathing but vital history of how mindfulness practices became a tool of capitalism. In the book, he wrote about how neoliberal societies view mindfulness as a skill to be cultivated or a resource to be put to use. When mastered, it helps you to navigate the capitalist ocean's tricky currents, keeping your attention present-centered and non-judgmental, to deal with the inevitable stress and anxiety from competition. Mindfulness helps you maximize your personal well-being. While again, cosmic ordering and Peirce's idea of neoliberal mindfulness are not the same, they do share key characteristics. Most notably, both mindfulness and cosmic ordering tell us to turn inwards instead of focusing our attention on the material causes of wealth inequality, stress, or any other issue you can think of. They're both preoccupied with a notion of self-mastery when it comes to inner thoughts and emotions. This idea that if we can simply get ourselves into right thinking, we could be happy. When the individualized self bears sole responsibility for its happiness and emotional well-being, failure is synonymous with failure of the self, not external conditions.
Well, now then, got a bit of cosmic ordering written on the
have, yes.
To change the world, we are told to work on ourselves.
I'm going to write mine on there too.
There you are.
To change our minds by being more mindful, non-judgmental, and accepting of circumstances.
I have my cosmic order that I've been working with the last little while.
In this way, neoliberal mindfulness functions as a machine of disimagination.
Yeah, there you go, everyone.
Slim.
The self is interpolated to make or make over a project out of its own identity,
Can we zoom in on that, please?
constantly monitoring its conduct
Slim.
and refashioning it in ways that feed fantasies of unfettered agency,
There is Slim.
aspiring to be free from the constraints of social conditioning.
And then I've got this one, which is health, wealth, and happiness.
Oh, nice.
Yet this is never quite possible. Fully being in the moment is always elusive when one is a neoliberal actor, since part of one's attention is monitoring the project of the self.
You want to manifest physical changes to the way that you look.
And you've been wanting to manifest a new physical appearance, I'm about to blow your mind.
Everywhere I go, I always get so many compliments.
The more out of alignment I got, the more asymmetric my face got.
You can change your appearance with love attraction when you follow these steps.
And of course, because I'm in my program, looking after my body at the moment, I'm in the slim frame of mind.
I like it.
And I've got a very, very special method of what I'm doing, and I'm going to be able to share that with you as I progress, as I start to really see that system working in my own body. I'm going to be sharing it with you a little bit later on.
This belief system's appeal to a man like Noel Edmonds isn't surprising. He had dominated the British entertainment industry for decades and was arguably someone that cared deeply about how he was perceived by the public.
Noel is always trying to make people have a different opinion of him. You know, that's the thing. You know, I think people disappoint Noel quite a lot.
A man who once told John Ronson, "I want to be popular. I want people to like me." A man who, by his own admission, liked to be in control.
With your helicopter, you love to be the pilot. Do you think a team is fine as long as you're the guy at the top telling them how it's done?
Are you working towards me being a control freak?
Well, probably I am.
Yeah, there is that in me, and it's taken me many years to come to terms with the fact that's a positive, not a negative.
Right.
I do like to be in control of a situation.
He was Mr. Saturday Night turned Mr. No Night at all. And although he claimed that he had moved on from television to focus on his business ventures, I think it's safe to say that he probably missed the limelight.
It does frighten me a bit that you could arrive at a sell-by date or the use-by date, and yet you still felt that you'd got a lot more in yourself.
Noel existed in a time before social media, but his comeback coincided with the beginning of influencer culture and personal branding. This idea that celebrities or people in the public eye are part human, part commodity, part walking, talking business. This new world made it easier than ever before to control your own narrative. And here was a spiritual system that seemed to promise its adherents some control over the universe as well.
But it's part of this positive attitude that you've got. Is it part of this what's called cosmic ordering I've been reading about? I know. Would you first of all explain to me what cosmic ordering is, so we might understand it better?
When you go through a challenging time in your life, I think it's important that you've got to look for the positives. We have in Western society a belief that to be selfish is quite rightly wrong because you're putting people down. To be self-focused is good, and there is a country mile between the two. If you're self-focused, you believe that good things are meant to happen to you. And if you can somehow get into that frame of mind, it's incredible how all of a sudden, you know, people find you more attractive. And by attractive, I mean they are offering you opportunities. My first one was I wanted a home in the south of France, which my girls would like. And it came in 3 months early. Now, how spooky is that?
Noel Edmonds was a very wealthy man with the means to buy such a property. And this gets to the crux of what I've been saying. If Noel's order comes through within 5 months while someone else's doesn't, is that a result of cosmic ordering or material circumstances? It's easy for Noel, who has consistently been a highly paid TV presenter, to espouse the benefits of this system to the general public via primetime interviews with Michael Parkinson. But Noel doesn't live in the same reality as someone getting paid minimum wage. And while he's definitely gone through stressful times and has experienced his own form of financial hardship, he still exists in a world that many of us will never experience. And when you're that disconnected from the majority of people, and to some extent, material reality, it can be very easy to fall into another world, one filled with magical thinking.
And again, if you want to know about cosmic ordering, which is what we've been looking at on the hands, you can cosmic order all sorts of things. Ask us. Noel Edmonds cosmic ordered Deal or No Deal.
He did indeed.
I put down I wanted an innovative challenge. I didn't know what it was.
Now again, it would be an astounding success story for cosmic ordering if a complete nobody had asked for a new and innovative challenge and ended up hosting a primetime game show on Channel 4. But this is Noel fucking Edmonds we're talking about. He's like one of the most famous TV presenters in the UK ever. Everybody knows who this man is. Some of those involved in the production of Deal or No Deal have disputed that the universe was responsible.
The reason Noel got Deal or No Deal is not cosmic ordering, it's the fact that he was massively famous. He auditioned to do Countdown on Channel 4, and Kevin Lygo, who was head of Channel 4 at the time, said, I'm not sure he's quite right for that, but is there something else? So we said, look, we've got this thing, Deal or No Deal, so maybe we'll try him. He came in and he was brilliant at it, and that's why he got it. No other, he didn't call it into being, it could have been someone else's show.
But a popular TV presenter espousing the benefits of a mystical shopping service was like catnip to the British press. They picked up the story and ran wild with it. And by early 2006, Bärbel's book, The Cosmic Ordering Service, had shot to the top of the Amazon charts, and she had been invited on a series of British TV shows to promote it. But it never seemed to stand alone. Noel was a constant mention, which I'm going to be quite frank, if I'd written a book and originated this whole thing, and then every time I went to promote it, people were like, oh yeah, Noel Edmonds is involved in this, I'd be like, can you stop talking about Noel bloody Edmonds? For a brief moment in time, the public seemed to be taken with this idea of cosmic ordering. But when the belief system was critiqued by Reverend Carl Cooper in his Easter message as being nonsense presented by the former king of Crinkly Bottom, Noel's PR person tried to put a bit of distance between him and Bärbel's system. What cosmic ordering did was trigger in his mind that we have to be positive. He wrote a list of achievements, but not in the way that was set out by this system. But it was too late. Noel Edmonds had become the public face of cosmic ordering, and the woo-filled environment of Deal or No Deal certainly didn't help matters.
When you were over there, you were, without a shadow of a doubt, the most brilliant psychic that we've had on the show. You were.
Just need some more positive energy from you guys. It's going to be my lucky day today.
Do you think you've disposed of all the bad luck? You have an interesting motto. Bad vibes, bad karma's all gone away.
Negative energy's gone.
You believe...
Live for the day.
Live for the day.
Yeah, I'm going to go great guns today.
That's why I like a bit of positive thinking. There's a lot of positive vibes coming from Jane. Do you have any sort of system with you today? Positive thinking, Irene. I know you're very into all that positivity.
Yes, I have an initial system.
Another good luck feather from your slippers?
I hope so.
Do you have any other garments or items that have feathers?
I have.
I want everybody out here to think, winner, 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 winner.
We're lucky to have a clairvoyant with us. Not only did she do exactly what you needed, but she even knew what was in the box.
But arguably there is no better example of this woo-filled atmosphere than this guy.
Why have you brought the book?
This book's very, very special to me. This is the book that changed my life and made me realise that I did want to go away travelling and see the world.
Alchemist.
Yeah. There's a little piece of paper here with a kind of distilled wisdom of the book, which I'm going to have sort of in front of me just to remind me when I'm getting to the kind of critical stage.
I like the sound of this, Finn.
But what I want you to do is give me all of your positivity, all of your energy, not before the box is opened, but before I make the choices, okay?
Why do you close your eyes each time?
Just to blot out my surroundings, really. Just to kind of clear my mind, let it open, to listen to my heart.
You asked them to give you a positive input during that process. Are you sensing something?
Absolutely.
You are?
Totally.
At first, the game was going incredibly well. He was opening all of the right boxes, and the banker called up with an offer of £44,000.
44.
No deal.
By now, I'm watching awed. It's like an agnostic who's seen a ghost. And then, disaster struck. Fred opened all the wrong boxes, 100,000, 250,000, and he left with the paltry sum of
£10,000. Yes, of course, I've got to remind you that he did turn down an astonishing £44,000. He goes away with less than a quarter of that. But did he reach out and touch you the way he touched everybody here? I hope he did, because once again we proved this show is unique.
But what I realised is that, so many of the contestants on Deal or No Deal were obsessed with their systems. And the systems were always spiritual, numerological, paranormal.
Journalist John Ronson was inspired to go behind the scenes on the set of Deal or No Deal to find out what made it tick. It resulted in quite possibly one of my favourite essays ever, in which he dived headfirst into Noel's world of mystical thinking and found something bizarrely akin to a positivity cult.
Guys, great day yesterday, well okay? We've got a bit of fun happening today. Are we up for it?
The contestants of the show found themselves isolated in a hotel in Bristol, where they formed intense bonds. And seemed to encourage each other's bizarre systems. Some relied on spreadsheets, statistics, and their own version of box counting, while others claimed to be telepaths with the gift of prophecy. And at the centre of it all was Noel and his own ideas of cosmic ordering. Yes, the word cosmos might sound off-putting, but you don't have to call it cosmos. Cosmos is just a word. You can call it anything you like. You can call it Argos or MFI. With his claim that he could tell which contestants would win or lose against the banker based on their aura alone, Noel seemed to be the Nostradamus of daytime TV. According to a former contestant, Sally Kettle, who walked away with 1p, there's a weird woo-woo expectation that good people win money. So when you don't win anything, it's really weird. It's weird because you question, am I a good enough person? The atmosphere backstage seemed to be more akin to a Tony Robbins seminar than a light-hearted game show. The contestants were constantly hyped up and kept in a positive state of mind. Much like a Tony Robbins seminar, Noel received daily reports on what the contestants got up to at the hotel. He claimed that it was because illnesses had been going around and they wanted to know what was happening with the contestants' health. Another contestant, Non-Sket, claimed that within her group there was a mole that reported back to Noel and the crew with pieces of gossip and snippets of conversation. It rightfully thankfully created an air of paranoia amongst the cast of the show. And that, combined with the isolation of being at a hotel for weeks and often months on end, while being pummeled with an onslaught of positivity, led Sally Kettle to claim that the set of Deal or No Deal felt more like a cult than a light entertainment show. Being on the show, I thought it was going to be loads of good fun. And it was in loads of ways. The people were really great and I did have fun. It was just a bit weird, a bit cultish. The whole experience was really cultish. And she wasn't the only one. A contestant from 2011, Paul Gorton, said something similar. You're just in a hotel room and then you go downstairs and then you all have breakfast together and then you all have your chats and you develop your little cliques. And then they have the dynamic, which is beautiful, of the mummy and daddy of the group. Honestly, it was so weird how ingratiated you become to our little cult. Noel Edmonds was arguably the perfect host for a TV show that combined magical thinking with the gambler's fallacy. After all, he'd supposedly manifested it from the cosmos with the wonders of a positive attitude, and the general public seemed to feel pretty positive towards him. Noel quickly got his own publishing deal off the back of his relentless promotion of positive thinking, and 2006 saw the release of his book, Positively Happy, which included profound insights and advice like, don't bring your personal issues to work with you, let go of your limiting beliefs about yourself, and also try and be nice to people. In British society, that's something that you need to learn via a book, apparently. Noel said that he wrote the book in response to the hundreds of people that had contacted him to ask him how he managed to stay so damn positive. So instead of replying back with one word, money, he decided to sit down and write 152 pages of what I can only describe as pull yourself up by your bootstraps self-help jargon. And the reason I know that is because I sat down and bloody read the thing. Things were looking up for Noel. He met his third wife, Liz, on the set of Deal or No Deal, where she worked as a makeup artist. I'm not sure whether he cosmically ordered her, but the stars certainly seemed to be aligned. Her and Noel were a match made in heaven, and she certainly had some interesting beliefs herself. She can see auras around people. I can't. She's very frustrated until recently because she keeps saying, can't you see the energy in the sky? I tried to get what she was seeing, but it gave me a bloody headache. She said, you must be able to see it. She described it as golden sperm writhing around. Then one day, recently, we were walking the dog across a field near Bath, and she said, try again. After about 10 minutes, I suddenly saw it. Only mine weren't golden, they were silver. I've managed to do it on 2 other occasions, and I'm getting nearer to feeling whatever this energy is. She even gifted him a way of circumventing traffic on the way to the Deal or No Deal studio.
Yeah, I drive a black cab down the bus lanes, yeah.
You got a present of a black cab?
Yeah.
And we should stress that there are 3 of you in your relationship with your wife.
Well, there was a problem when I pulled up at traffic lights.
Yes.
And so Liz bought me Candice, who is a sort of mannequin, a dummy, who sits in the back.
That's the thing about Noel. He doesn't play by ordinary people's rules. He's tapped into a higher power. He drives black cabs down bus lanes while the rest of us are stuck in traffic listening to his CD filled with new age music. Yes, that is really a thing. He really did release a CD of new age music, and it received some mixed reviews. Very helpful when you want some calming music when you go to bed. Have you ever wanted to pay the price of a full album for music you can hear for free on a Febreze advert? Positively naff. Soon after, he released a cosmic ordering iPhone app. For just £1.19, users could create what journalist Richard Trenholm called a to-do list dressed up with spiritual space dust. Society had seemingly accepted Noel's somewhat mainstream belief in manifestation, and perhaps the success of his book, combined with the support from his wife, made him believe that they would also be accepting of some of his more out-there theories. In interviews, he began to talk about being visited by 2 orbs that contained the souls of his mum and dad. Conventional photography can't pick them up, but digital cameras can. My belief is that these are something to do with some form of spiritual energy. I've got loads of photos of me at home with 2 orbs that visit me. The 2 that I have are about the size of melons. immigrants. One sits on my arm and the other is usually in the back of the shot, sitting just over my right shoulder. They like very happy occasions and positive environments. So if you're a positive person, you will undoubtedly have orbs around you. Sometimes I wonder why Noel Edmonds never got the opportunity to host Most Haunted Live. To me, he seems like the most obvious choice to host a show that consists of creaking floorboards, dust floating through the air, and people freaking each other out. He made a show that was literally about opening boxes interesting. Think of what he could have done on Most Haunted Live. Alongside the orbs, Noel began to feel more comfortable sharing his opinions on more political topics like immigration. If I was Prime Minister for a day, the first thing I would do would be to close the border. We can all go down the pub and go, oh, it's terrible, all these immigrants. But what are we going to do in Britain to change this toxic culture if we don't say enough is enough? That's funny coming from a man that at the time owned a house in France and a man who is currently an immigrant in New Zealand, but we'll get on to that in a bit. In the same year that Noel complained about immigration, the executives at Sky TV gave him a new venture, one that Charlie Brooker described as
essentially a combination of That's Life, Surprise Surprise, and the scenes where Peter Finch goes mad in Network.
Are you unhappy with life in Britain today?
Yeah.
Are you concerned with the lack of respect, compassion and freedom in our society?
Yeah.
Would you like to be part of a fairer, more caring Britain?
Yeah, and I'll kill anyone who disagrees.
You clearly feel frustrated and at times angry at the tidal wave of new rules, regulations and laws that have been introduced in the name of health and safety, security or the environment.
Oh yeah, bloody health and safety and security and the environment. I hate them.
Well, the politicians, they've had their turn.
Yeah, it's an uprising. Come on.
It's down to you, me, them and everyone who wants to live in a more caring society.
Is it going to involve any work?
The show seemed to be a strange choice for a man that had published an entire book telling people not to focus on negativity and to be positively happy.
Busking bagpipers from one of Scotland's most famous streets in Edinburgh were made to sign acceptable behaviour contracts. Now, come on, restricting their playing times due to rules on licensing and noise.
Why are the police going after bagpipers? Why aren't they going after the yobs and the hoodies and the drums?
The entire show seemed to act as a vehicle for Noel to highlight petty local grievances and rail against what he called Interestingly, that phrase is now used by the obnoxious gobshite and far-right opportunist Katie Hopkins in her daily rantings on YouTube.
Breaking news here in batshit bonkers Britain, where Tommy Robinson Crusoe is out of prison looking very much like a man unbroken by the British state.
In a now infamous clip, Noel went on a diatribe against a local council for not only rejecting a planning application for a disabled veterans bungalow, but for also rejecting an offer to appear on Noel's show.
We invited the council to come on the show. They declined. Their head of press, Jim Vandenbos, actually said, "We don't talk to entertainment shows like yours." Well, actually, Mr. Vandenbos, I've got a message for you. Don't simply think this is an entertainment show and decide then that you don't want to talk to us. Because Mark Prince and the fight against knife crime didn't just turn around and dismiss us as an entertainment show. Actually, I created this show. I do not get paid a penny to do this show. I decided, no fee, I wanted to put my heart and soul into it because I want to fight people like you and your council, because I think you're at the heart of what is wrong with this country. And wait for this Wealden District Council and Mr. Vandenbos, who would sneer at what we're doing here, because you're sneering at millions of other people in this country. Just remember, by the way, you're a public servant. Who pays your money?
Now look, I'm not going to sing the praises of local councils while I'm recording this from the festering wasteland that is reform-occupied Kent. And my God, we all lived through the Hanford Parish Council debacle.
You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out.
They now elect a chairman.
No, they can't, because the vice chair's here. I take charge. Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
But Noel's HQ seemed unduly focused on issues that didn't really challenge the status quo. The show was billed as TV's response to what many see as broken Britain, a phrase popularised by David Cameron in the run-up to the 2010 election, which he won. Indeed, Britain did seem to be broken. After decades of neoliberal rule under Thatcher, Major and Blair, British industry was dead. Our vital public services had been privatised, the markets were deregulated and left to run wild, our welfare state was stripped down to almost nothing, and nobody on either side of the political aisle was offering any alternative. I'm glad things have changed.
I am rolling back regulation that has gone too far in seeking to eliminate risk.
But the term broken Britain wasn't used to describe any of that, and instead focused on what Sam Bright at the Byline Times called a perceived social decay and an alleged growth of social disorder. Noel's HQ tapped into this idea of a moral rot at the core of British society. Noel whipped the foam finger wearing crowd into a furore against
political correctness gone mad,
which is a naughty's way of moaning about the woke. For Noel's HQ, the issue wasn't decades of wealth accumulation that had resulted in the gap between rich and poor growing ever larger. It was speed cameras, the London congestion charge, immigrants, and those pesky health and safety regulations.
The kind of people that say political correctness gone mad are usually using that phrase as a kind of cover action to attack minorities or people that they disagree with. It's a complete lie that allows the right, which basically controls media now and international politics, to make people on the left that are concerned about the way people are represented look like they're killjoys.
If anything, Noel was ahead of the times, because these sentiments, along with his views on immigration, are pretty much mainstream now. This idea of a broken, bonkers Britain is the wave that Nigel Farage has been riding for decades, and it's the one that he'll probably ride into power.
We're actually facing, in many parts of our country, nothing short of societal collapse. I believe we're living in broken Britain. Nothing actually works. I don't think anybody in London even understands just how close we are to civil disobedience on a vast scale in this country, and I regret saying that.
To me, Noel's HQ feels like the spiritual forerunner to GB News.
A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken.
Colour me shocked. Britain is broke.
Welcome to Broken Britain.
Our streets are now battlegrounds of ideology.
In a land where nothing from the health service to the police to the national borders functions anymore, the social fabric frays rapidly.
It's hard not to look around the country at the moment and feel something fundamental in Britain is broken.
And what about the foreign flags draping over our war memorials?
Let's talk antisocial behaviour then, shall we?
Who do you trust to fix broken Britain?
Now, Britain is in decline and its people are becoming strangers in their own land.
The leading factor behind broken Britain is that we have a broken immigration system.
A show like Noel's HQ and a channel like GB News are never going to address the material conditions that have led to this feeling of brokenness, because it's much too complex. It would involve teaching their viewers history and encouraging their audience to be well educated. And a well educated audience are going to be less likely to accept that the issues in their lives are the fault of migrants or wokeness gone mad. Instead, they keep the viewer distracted with all manner of culture war nonsense and ensure that we keep pointing foam fingers at each other instead of pointing them upwards. In many ways, it's the same simple, self-soothing storytelling that leads people to believe that bad things are happening in their lives because of a negative mindset. The people that have an invested interest in maintaining the current system want us to be fighting amongst ourselves about petty grievances on Noel's HQ, or thinking that if we just try hard enough, put in enough cosmic orders and send out enough good vibes, we can end up as wealthy as they are. But what do I know? I'm just a person with a camera, a microphone and my own soapbox to stand on. Is this my version of Noel's HQ? The mid-2010s saw the end of Deal or No Deal, and HQ was a distant memory. And things started to get a little bit weird. Noel started to talk about buying the BBC.
The project actually started about 18 months ago.
We have noticed that rather a lot of people are illegally watching Noel's house party on the interwebby.
And who are these people? Like-minded people, people who actually do not want to see Britain lose
the BBC, and that is how serious it is.
It's jolly good family entertainment, of the kind with which we no longer wish to be associated.
The
yeah,
BBC...
but who are they? I mean, like-minded people. What a lot of, with the greatest of respect, lots of blokes with beards who present afternoon television programmes. What is it, these like-minded people?
By watching Noel's house party and telling your friends about it, you're reminding them of a bygone age.
It is a patient that is now terminally ill, and it needs another force from outside to cure it and make it fit for a world that we couldn't have envisaged 10 years ago.
Furthermore, this was family entertainment. These days, we don't entertain the idea there's such a thing as a family.
And he seemed to be annoyed that they were wasting money on Welsh programming.
There are 50,000 people speaking Gaelic. Welsh language has been declining over 10 years, and the BBC spends £48 million on that.
He launched what The Guardian called a bizarre radio empire, which was essentially a bunch of stations playing a mixture of music, ranting, and Noel calling people's pets on the phone. Yes, I'm being serious. He literally had a thing where he would literally call and talk to your pet. Noel also found himself embroiled in a legal dispute with Lloyds Bank over a complex financial scam that had ultimately decimated his business.
The TV presenter Noel Edmonds took his legal battle with Lloyds Bank into the company's AGM today. He believes he was the victim of fraud by former staff inside HBOS. That bank was taken over by Lloyds at the height of the financial crisis, and Mr. Edmonds now wants compensation from them.
Money is their God. Greed is their faith. When they go into these buildings, they're in a culture where they do not care about real people. And just because, yeah, I've got a famous face, famous name, I've been on the telly for 40 years and whatever, I'm still the same as everybody else when it comes to being the victim of a crime. Even the Cray twins and Al Capone didn't have this amount of police investigation. Norman, you're quite incredible. I am asking you questions.
This isn't a show, Mr. Edmonds. This is an AGM, and I'd like you to come to your question, please.
Now, Norman, if you want to turn it into a game show, the way you treat us, I would call it pointless. And if you want it to turn into jail or no jail, you are going in the right direction.
Noel eventually reached a settlement worth around £5 million in 2019, but the case had taken an extreme toll on him, and he went as far as to claim that it may have been responsible for him developing prostate cancer.
I thought, very, very healthy. I know why I got my cancer, because I'd gone through a very stressful, very negative period in my life.
So the stress in your life gave you prostate cancer?
Yes, because stress is negative energy.
And the science is actually very straightforward. You know, it comes out of quantum physics. There is an energy which so far, admittedly, hasn't been measured. How is it that good things happen to good people? Because they have positive energy. You put out positive energy there, you will attract good things, because the vacuum that you've created by pushing it out has to be filled by more positive energy. It's just basic science.
It seemed as if Noel had descended further down the conspirituality rabbit hole than ever before.
Positivity is a state of body, not a state of mind.
He started talking about how death is merely an illusion.
We are linked by this energy web. Some call it a matrix. Everything is actually linked. And when you understand that and appreciate it, boy, oh boy, life becomes a lot more exciting, because you don't actually live life. Life lives you, and you cannot die. Yes, the energy leaves your container. It is a scientific fact at the point of what we call death. The body weighs less than during what we call life. So where has that energy gone? You cannot destroy energy. You can only change its form. It has to go somewhere.
And he claimed that the greatest issue facing humanity was electrosmog.
Because we're surrounded by electro-mist, electro-fog and electrosmog. We are covering ourselves in the wrong source of electromagnetism. And these idiot politicians who talk about climate change, I mean, for goodness sake, even if the climate is changing, do they really think that little us can do anything about it? No, of course not. The biggest problem we have is not Ebola, it's not AIDS, it's actually electrosmog, the Wi-Fi, and all of the systems that we are introducing into our lives are destroying our own natural electromagnetic fields.
But Noel claimed to have found a cure to tackle the pesky negative energy fields surrounding us.
A simple box that slows down raging, reduces pain, lifts depression, stress, tackles cancer. Yep, tackles cancer. That's the box you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's it. 8 minutes and you feel ready for another exciting day. Yippee. And then you say what it is.
Did for me.
Noel's promotion of the EMP pad, a form of pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, as a cure for cancer on Twitter, landed him in some hot water, with one person replying that Noel Edmonds should stick to what he's good at, presenting quiz shows and beard trimming, rather than curing cancer. Noel responded with a now infamous tweet.
You said, is it possible your ill health is caused by your negative attitude?
A question.
That's to a man who's got cancer.
Yes.
Just, if anything, it's insensitive.
Well, as somebody who also, until very recently, had cancer, I would ask that question. All I asked was a question.
What about if it was that question, if it is a question, if it's not an insensitive question, would you ask that to a child that had cancer? If it's about having negative energy?
I think you're completely missing the point here.
The creators of the EMP pad Noel used sought to distance themselves from him, and they put out a statement declaring that they were not in the cancer curing business. In 2010, Bärbel Mohr died of cancer at the age of 46. She was arguably an extremely positive woman. She was the one that had written the book that introduced Noel to the concept of cosmic ordering. She was tapped into good vibrations and was arguably an optimist. And yet all of the positive thinking in the world couldn't stop Bärbel, the originator of cosmic ordering, from developing cancer. I found an interesting thread on r/law of attraction where somebody wrote that their faith was shaken quite a bit in the practice when they found out that Bärbel had died pretty young from cancer. But even then, there were a bunch of people in the comments trying to justify her tragic death as being some sort of act of karma, that she was somehow predestined to her fate, that everything had been cosmically designed and she had agreed to it in other lifetimes. Of course, I'm not saying that Noel Edmonds felt that way. As far as I know, he didn't. But this is where this kind of thinking leads.
Do you not think it was horrible what you said to him?
No, because I asked him a question. It's a perfectly reasonable question to ask somebody. Do you think that your negative attitude has possibly contributed to the situation you find yourself in?
Do you not think it would upset that person?
Possibly.
Does that not bother you?
Well, that chapter has gone. I'm very, very relaxed with the principle that if you want to tackle big problems in your life and serious disease, you have to come at it in a positive way. And there's a whole range of things that you can do before you subject yourself to big pharma and chemicals in your body, etc.
Do you think all cancers can be caused by negative attitudes?
No.
Which ones?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Exactly.
Sorry, the point you're making is?
As Dr. David Grimes, a cancer researcher at Oxford University, said,
it's not just untrue, it's patronising and it's victim blaming. Cancer is bad luck. You can reduce or increase your chances by making different lifestyle choices. The healthiest people in the world get cancer, and it's not because they are negative.
But again, I can see how this idea of negative thinking or out of whack energy being responsible for cancer could be appealing to someone like Noel and many like him. A man who, by his own admission, was a bit of a control freak. In an article for the British Psychological Society, Dr. Thomas Wachowski wrote that the conviction that positive thinking and emotions prevent the development of cancer, or can even cure it, is consistent with our need for control. We prefer to live with the conviction that we have control over something rather than it being out of our hands. Unfortunately, as a matter of fact, we are powerless to influence the overwhelming majority of cancer-inducing factors, and there are still others which simply remain unknown. In 2019, Noel and his wife Liz emigrated to New Zealand, and by 2023 they had spent around $30 million on 12 properties in the rural area of Nagamoto. coyote. In their own words, they wanted to make a difference while assimilating to the local community. They focused on expanding Noel's positivity radio. The website even has a Noel Edmonds AI chatbot that asks how you're feeling. I asked it whether negativity causes cancer, and it replied that positivity can do wonders for one's overall well-being. Noel claimed that him and Liz had been drawn to the area in New Zealand due to its positive energy, and they quickly got to work trying to assimilate with the local community. They opened the Riverhaven Vineyard, a so-called positivity haven, complete with a British-themed pub called the Bugger Inn. But it wasn't all good vibes. In August 2023, the couple found themselves embroiled in a battle with their neighbours and the local council. See, the council wanted to build a cycle trail, and they wanted to get Noel's permission to cut through some of his property so it wasn't so close to the road on public reserve land. He was having none of it, and in a scene reminiscent of Noel's HQ, he began to rage at the cycle trail manager, Belinda Crisp. He started saying how dangerous the cycle trail was, there had been no consultation with the community, the entire community was up in arms.
Because I want to fight people like you and your council.
He accused us of wasting ratepayer money.
Who pays your money?
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He stood up and pointed at us both, and he said, "You two need your heads cut off and your brains replaced."
Because I think you're at the heart of what is wrong with this country.
Honestly, I would not want to be a member of a local council having to meet with Noel Edmonds. I'd be in fear for my life. He allegedly went on to say, "All hell's gonna break loose, right? And while you still have this attitude, you're not welcome here. Don't even think about having a coffee, having a slice. You are our enemies." Apparently, he banned Crisp from his property and claimed that she was not our sort of person. When he was asked who his sort of person was, he replied, "A very positive person and somebody who wants to make a positive contribution to life in Nagamoti." New Zealand news outlet The Stuff reported that Noel had previously attended what they called a meeting of conspiracy theorists, which is a term that can often be used as like a brush to tar people with, but in this case, it was probably pretty apt. At this meeting, they supposedly discussed topics like 15-minute cities, an urban planning concept which became a sort of bogeyman during the pandemic, tantamount to tyranny and an example of how Klaus Schwab wanted to install a new world order. At the meeting, one man spoke about the need to be free from the tyranny and ruthlessness of the public servants who no longer serve our interests, but their own and that of their globalist paymasters. At least one member of the New Zealand Loyal Party was in attendance, Sebastian Marinkovic. The staff noted that Edmonds was seen talking to him after the meeting, but just because you're talking to someone, it doesn't mean that you agree with them on everything. On the 20th of June this year, ITV aired their new 3-part documentary, Noel Edmonds' Kiwi Adventure, which followed him and his wife and their team reopening Riverhaven after being closed for the winter. This show is Noel's first real foray into the world of reality television, a situation where he cannot control everything going on around him, despite his best efforts to do so. It's genuinely a very interesting, entertaining and fascinating glimpse into Noel Edmonds' life. We also get a close-up look at Noel's positivity formula, a protocol that shuns big pharma and welcomes in big wellness with open arms. It consists of eating the best possible food, drinking non-dead water.
This is water in its purest form.
His own form of exercise that he calls
Tranquil power.
pulsed electromagnetism.
And what is happening now is by pulsing electromagnetism, all my little cells are going, whoa, now we've got good frequencies. Now we can work properly.
A specific form of meditation that he calls
Vibe. Visualization of body energy.
And lastly, a crystal bed that balances his chakras.
This takes me somewhere else. And it's beautiful.
Now, it must be said that Noel does appear to be in good shape. He's somehow still got a full head of hair at 76 years old.
Sauna and infrared, proven science, very, very good for you. And the hyperbaric chamber, a little bit of oxygen 3 times a week.
You don't have to wear this, but it shoots almost pure oxygen into your body. It's good.
I'm rocking.
He chalks it all up to this positivity formula, one that he's obviously able to afford because of his success in his career and the vast amounts of wealth that he's accumulated. For Noel, it might be a comfort to believe that he's truly in control, and I don't doubt that his good diet, combined with exercise and meditation, is probably doing him the world of good. But his positivity formula is hardly accessible for the average person, and in 2025, Noel's form of wellness almost feels like a status symbol. Most of us can't afford the best possible food, a pulsed electromagnetism machine, a home gym, or a crystal bed. And even if we could afford them, who's got the time to be doing all of that? Rich people. Rich people is the answer. In an article for the Kansas City Star, shout out KC, love the Royals, Sarah Grindstaff writes that the supposedly benign language of wellness and self-improvement can be seen as a subtle reincarnation of eugenics thinking. She argues that the 20th century eugenic obsession with purity, control, and the ideal body is alive and well in 2025. After all, we're living in the era of RFK Jr.'s Maha movement.
Eggs and bacon for breakfast, nuts and pistachios, dried mango, steak and protein for dinner. That's pretty good, Bobby.
Yeah, I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat anything that comes in a pack. And I don't eat anything that has more than 3 ingredients in it.
Right. That's the key.
To be healthy, we just need clean food, more exercise, meditation, positive thinking, and perhaps any number of fancy machines sold to us by goopified women and Roganified men.
Airports are places full of Wi-Fi and all sorts of evil energies. Think of all the phones out there.
Wi-Fi radiation does all kinds of bad things, including causing cancer.
All of the signals, corruptible and corrupting.
Wi-Fi radiation opens up your blood-brain barrier.
Luckily, I wear this magical amulet.
And so all these toxins that are in your body can now go into your brain.
That keeps me safe from all of the various signals out there.
How does Wi-Fi radiation open up your blood-brain barrier?
Yeah, now you're gone beyond my expertise.
As we're recording this right now, you have a little IV, so which is so on brand.
The most important thing to do when it comes to EMFs, electrosmog, is to just remove electrosmog at night where you're sleeping.
Structured water has a specific hexagonal pattern.
First of all, you gotta wear glutathione when you're traveling.
Just got done with the celestial chamber.
What's up, everybody? Come with me and let's go get my chakras realigned.
Ooh. Wow. Pretty amazing, huh?
Amazing, wonderful.
I'm sorry, what was that? You want access to good healthcare? You want an increase in wages? You want more time with your family? I'm sorry, the best I can do is vortexed water and Mel Robbins' The Let Them theory.
Your company is laying people off. Let them.
Now, Noel would say that I'm being incredibly negative, and maybe he's right. Maybe he'll put me on the top of his shit list along with Jim Vandenbos, Belinda Crisp, and countless other local council officials. I can imagine it now, Noel leading an angry mob of YouTube commenters that have all taken umbrage with at least one thing I've said in this video. Are you fed up with holier-than-thou YouTubers? Do you want to see an end to rambling video essays that turn into preaching political diatribes? Have you had enough of people calling you a conspiracy theorist for not trusting the system? And I get it. We're bombarded by lies, propaganda, and misinformation on what feels like an hourly basis. The institutions that are supposed to be working for us end up misleading, ignoring, and lying to us. I can see how an easily digestible grab bag of woo, pseudoscience, and conspiracy fictions can help some people feel like they're in control of their own lives, that they're not just a cog in an ever-churning machine with little political agency and an ever-increasing lack of free speech. In this fantasy world, you get to become the master of your own destiny. The solution is simply an adjustment of thought, not an adjustment of action. Noel Edmonds used to be kooky, and to some he still is, but in 2025 he feels strangely more representative of where we are as a society, post-truth and post-pandemic. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's Noel Edmonds' world and we're all trapped in it. Thank you for watching the video. This one is a bit more polemic-y than usual. I know that I always try and add in a little bit of politics topics to try and contextualize a lot of the topics that I talk about, but I feel like this one is a little bit more than usual, so I hope that people enjoy it. And of course, if you disagree, that is your right. You are allowed to disagree, and you can let me know in the comments down below. But please, for the love of God, don't comment down below being like, can you stop talking about politics, please? It's not going to happen. Also, thank you for your patience. I know that I haven't made a video in a couple of months, and I appreciate everyone that still sticks around, still comments, and I especially appreciate all of my patrons over on Patreon. I'm going to go open a window because it is so humid. I am sweating my bollocks off. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.